legend himself, one of my favorite athletes ever, one of my favorite teams ever. They're the team that I talk about quite a bit less because there's just, there tends to be quite a few less problems, but also we haven't hit the season yet until last week. Let's talk about Stephen Curry, baby. This is that time of year. I always love the beginning of October and like early November because this is the time of year where Steph Curry usually has like a really great performance and we just get to simp over him for 3 days until the next game. So, but I think every day is a day to appreciate the accomplishments of Wardell Stephen Curry and what he's done for the Bay Area because unlike James Richard Garoppolo, Stephen Curry has done quite a bit more for Bay Area sports, including bringing us 3 championships, 5 NBA Finals appearances, coupled with the help of Clay, of course, and Draymond and Kevin Durant in there as well. But, okay, Stephen Curry and the culture. What is the point you're trying to make here? Listen, I mean, like I said before, I love talking basketball at this time of year because this is the time of year, and this has like been like a thing, I guess, with like the 2010s and like now I guess the 2020s with the 49ers, is that typically besides like 4 years, this is around the time of the year where just football falls apart. So the team is either 0-4, they're 2-4, they're 1-4, they're like, or there's like coaching changes or there's just dysfunction in the organization. And this year also tends to find that pattern. We are out of the playoffs, playoff hunt. It does not looking like we're going to make the playoffs. Of course, I'll keep my tabs on football, but it's time to kind of shift the focus. You got to move into basketball. We got to talk about a little bit about hoops, okay? And my boy Wardell. And again, like Bay Area sports would have sucked if the Warriors sucked as well, right? Because it was just like moving from one suck to the other suck. Like that would be awful. But thank God the Warriors have been relevant for the better part of a decade and have, had the success that they've had. So me as the fan can, just kind of jump ship real quick to another sport if I really need that. But what that got me thinking, I was thinking, wow, like I'm obviously so blessed that I grew up in one of the best decades of Bay Area sports history ever. And I'm so happy that I did grow up in that era. But also, like, what makes the Warriors like an interesting watch? And I thought about it, and it's here's the difference, man. Like, I think when you talk about the last decade, I'm focusing on the last decade because the Warriors were 35, 40, 45 years of suck. Okay. They were awful for a really long time when they came to the Bay Area. They moved from Philadelphia in the 80s and they were terrible for a while. You had a couple playoff appearances here and there. Obviously you had Run TMC, you had We Believe, you had a couple things here and there, but they were never really good. Then the dynasty came in the 2010s. Okay, but this last decade, let me tell you something that I see with the Golden State Warriors that I do not see with the San Francisco 49ers. And we're going to talk Bay Area sports. And I think that we're just going to talk general sports in general. When I see this team play basketball, win or lose, they look like they're having a good time. It looks like, when these guys are playing when these guys are playing basketball, when Steph is playing basketball, it looks like he's out in like the middle school hoop yard, just like tossing up shots, having fun. It looks like this team, when they pass the ball, when they, are just making that extra pass to see their teammates succeed, that looks like genuine happiness. It looks like they are playing the game. It looks like they are like literally living their dreams, right? Like, you talk about NBA players and obviously, with this whole, with mental health and all of that, there's a lot of pressure that comes on elite athletes. I'm not doubting that. But at the same time, NBA, like these guys on the Warriors for the better part of a decade, I could argue for the better part of a decade, maybe it has to do with the success, maybe it doesn't. They've just, they've always been so happy. It looks like they're happy on a basketball court. It never looks like this team was unhappy. Last year was a little weird in that it felt like they were flat for a while, but they didn't really have their core all together, Clay. And there was like with the Clay injury, it brought like a weird vibe to the team and all that. But this year, like, it looks like they're just having fun playing basketball. They love making that extra pass. They're unselfish. They want to see each other succeed. And building that kind of culture within a team is, it's integral. Like, you look at the 49ers, for example. it doesn't feel that way. When I've watched the Niners play football for the better part of, almost 15 years now, a lot of the time, and maybe it's football is, obviously a war game. So, you're going to get a lot more hitting and violence and all of this stuff. But when you watch the 49ers play football, you can't sit there and tell me like a lot of the time it looks like they're having fun. There was one exception to that rule, which was George Kittle. George Kittle looks like he's having the freaking time of his life, which makes him so endearing. And that's a culture changer. And, I think that's what we were hoping for in 2019 with the 49ers was like, oh my gosh, like it is like they went to the Super Bowl and all that. And like George Kittle was just like leading this new culture wave of positivity. And it was reminiscent of that of the Warriors, of Steph Curry, putting on show after show with his boys and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. And they were just, they played a brand of basketball that was just having fun. It looked like it was a bunch of, middle school kids playing for fun, rather than this is our job, this is our profession, like we're going to just, play regimented football. Like that's what it feels like when I watch the Niners. It feels a lot darker. It always has for some reason, except during Harbaugh. During Harbaugh, it looked like those players really just were having the time of their lives when they were out on the field. And that's what made those teams so endearing. There is something about a team being endearing and a team loving the sport that they play. This year's San Francisco Giants, for example, it was just one of those teams where every single player on the roster like looked like they were just having the time of their life when they were playing baseball. And that translates to success. I mean, that Giants team broke the franchise record. And yeah, they may have lost in the playoffs, but dude, like they had more success than the Giants teams of like 2-3 years ago. Obviously we've won 3 World Series and all that, and that's great. And I don't know much about baseball, so I'm going to kind of veer off of this, and get back into basketball. But with basketball, I mean, you won 3 championships in 5 years. Why? Because your culture was so good. Why did Kevin Durant want to come to Golden State? Because the culture was awesome. Why? And like, what is the main problem with the 49ers right now? The culture sucks. And that's the thing, bro. Sports teams start with the culture. It starts with the vibe. It starts with the type of people that you bring into the organization. And that's why I'm so thankful for Steph Curry to tie it all back together. Steph Curry is the type of guy who changes the freaking narrative of a team. You can bring him into any team and that locker room will instantly change. And when that mentality changes and when that attitude changes of a sports team, it's impeccable. I mean, you can, like, for my non-sports fans, look at it from like a corporation standpoint, right? Look at it from the standpoint of like, you have a CEO that's like a micromanager, someone who, is always on top of people's shit, making sure that they have it. And like, yeah, the results may be good, but people aren't necessarily having fun, right? Because it's all about the work. But then you get a CEO who's a little more lenient, a little more relaxed, still focused, still has a clear mission of what they want to do, but is willing to give employees the flexibility to succeed and willing to work with all sorts of different personalities. That's going to be a more successful executive in the long run with the company. It's the same way with the sports team. When you have a solid culture in place, the team is going to be relevant. When you promote unselfish brands of basketball, unselfish brands, unselfish culture where every guy is playing for each other, then yeah, you're looking at a team which is way better. You're looking at something which, I mean, is special. And that's what you saw with the Warriors. And that's what you saw with Harbaugh and the Niners. And I don't think you necessarily see that with Shanahan because he tends to be more of a micromanager. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's just different approaches and kind of different vibes that sort of take you in that direction. And I think that's fine. But again, that's why I think I appreciate Steph Curry the most is because he changed the culture of Warrior basketball. The Warriors were perennial losers. We never made the playoffs. We were, losing team, just a bunch of losers. And Steph Curry came in here and changed the mentality and changed the culture and made basketball fun again for fans and for the players. And so thank you, Steph, for that, because you are awesome. You are amazing. You are one of my favorite athletes. And I think you are one of my favorite athletes because of the way that you approach this game. And that's pretty cool. Okay, so enough about that.